Hello everybody, welcome to Red Tool House. No, we are not standing in the city dump. We are standing in what I used to call my construction supply pile. But my pigs have had access to it and they have torn all this apart. This was all in an area, this where I'm standing used to be a little pad of asphalt. You imagine like a little parking pad. And the owners before us, is my understanding, they had a mechanic shop back here. And from everything I've unearthed, it's like an archaeological dig sometimes around here, everything I've unearthed or the pigs have unearthed, we've found car parts, we found all kinds of engine parts, body parts, not human body parts, car body parts, and just found a ton of stuff like that. So I have a feeling they ran a mechanic shop slash salvage yard slash dump. So I use this asphalt pad to my advantage to pile my construction supplies up when we were building the wood shop, and of course when we ended up building the house. But when we got into pigs and let pigs start to rummage through this, I thought, well, they're really not really going to mess with all this stuff. Well, that was my mistake. They have torn this all to pieces. They've broken some of the stone, they've flipped over the metal roofing, they've walked on the metal roofing, they've obviously they're curious like cats. So they've really done a lot of damage to this, and it just looks unsightly. I can't get in here. I've got sycamore trees growing up that I want to cut down, so I really can't get in here and clean this up the way I want to unless I get these supplies out. So that's what we're going to work on today is clean this up. Nothing really exciting, but just get it out of our way. Our plan actually is, where I'm standing here is my road that comes down. The camera is sitting on the road, but if you look in proximity to where we are to our barn, that way, we're kind of in the barn's backyard. So I'd like to get this cleaned up as we take this road. Good. And we get the pigs off of it. Eventually, the plan will be get the pigs off of it, have fence on either side, then I can drive through and not have to worry about the pigs being in here tearing it up. But I've got a stream. I've got a stream that comes down the hill here, and it used to go in through a culvert, a small pipe, and down behind the barn. Well, we didn't want it to go that way, so we just temporarily redirected it. So right now it's just going down my road. But the plan is to come in and just cut with a dozer or a piece of equipment and get this creek on this side, so it'll come down and kind of converge with another watershed that we have, and get that water concentrated going under the road in a culvert that we'll put in. But the thing about with pigs, if you're going to give pigs access to anything, any part of pasture, and you say, oh, I've got a pile of wood, or I've got something here that I don't think they'll mess with, then that's wrong. They'll mess with it. They'll always mess with it. And it's funny how they just keep rooting out scrap metal and pieces of things. So we try to pile that up and get enough to take to the recycling center all at once. And for those of you that have inquired, yes, I did get my wig busted. I do that once a year, whether I need it or not. Go for my annual shearing. And it's kind of funny. Somebody was showing me the other day that I think I've brought back the mullet, but in reverse. So I've got party in the front and business in the back there. So yes, for those of you who inquired, I did get my hair cut. This isn't a continuity issue with our videos. So the game plan is we've got some stone that we used in doing the facade of the house. We want to keep that. Some of the metal roofing's still good, so we're going to keep that. Obviously cinder blocks, I never throw away cinder block unless it's busted all to pieces, because you never have too many cinder blocks. Some of this vinyl siding has been laying here so long it's deteriorated. The pigs have stepped through it and punched holes in it. So we're probably just going to pile that up and get that ready to go to the dump. But other than that, there's just some scrap wood. We want to get in here and cut out these pines and these sycamores that have grown up. We don't want those to get too crazy. A couple locust trees I may let go. Even have a piece of well casing here that could be used as a small culvert or some other support device. What we've done, again, I know some of you think I'm a pack rat, and I probably am. But these things that I don't want to throw away, I don't want to just pile them up around the barn. I'm actually moving them further up the valley in a spot where the pigs, I won't have pig pasture anytime soon. In fact, I'm hoping I'll never have pig pasture in this one spot. And it's a flat area, and we've already moved some bricks. We've already moved some other construction equipment, construction supplies up there. So the game plan is to move the stuff we want to keep up there. And that'll just be in a nice little secluded area. It's in the woods, but it's got a flat area around it so I can mow. I can drive right up to it easily. So maybe a good place to keep this stuff so I can use it when I need it. Well, it may not look like it, but we got most of the construction material cleaned up. I've separated what's salvageable and what needs to go to landfill or what needs to be disposed of. A couple little small pieces to clean up there. But again, the game plan where I'm standing is where this creek needs to be. The camera is actually sitting in the creek bed that's flowing down behind the camera and going down this way past this pad. So the plan will be, we're hoping to get a dozer in here in the next couple weeks, and one of the things we'll do is we'll cut this out so the creek can come down through this area, go down past that that barrel, and where that stump's sticking up is actually where it would drain into the main creek. But as I mentioned, pigs really like to tear things up and move things around, and they unearth a lot of stuff. And in the past I've shared with you all things I've found as the pigs have churned stuff up from our previous property owners, and this is a recent find that's kind of interesting. This is a looks like the tap from a bar, keg tap for Budweiser. So these guys evidently partied on an extreme level, so they had these type of things going on. So along the same sentiment of pigs tearing up everything, hey, what are you walking in my shot for? I'm working here. So this was a wild plum tree inside the pig pasture that was actually pretty unhealthy. And I pruned it and did some other things, and it actually last year produced a decent amount of wild plums, which the pigs absolutely love. Man, they went crazy over it because I just let a lot of them hit the ground. And don't go knock my camera over, you little dip. But what happened is we had a really late snow, and it was a heavy wet snow, had several of them, and this thing kept moving over, that snow just kept breaking it over. So between the snow load and them coming in and rooting around here, really, you got to stand right in front of the shot, knocked the tree down, and so it uprooted. But it's sad, you can see actually where the pigs, because the sap was starting to flow. In fact, it even bloomed. There's quite a few blooms on it. It would have had a pretty good harvest. But they've come through and they've chewed all the bark off this side. The sweetness of the sap and the bark, they've chewed it all out. So that was a bit of a drag. I was hoping I could keep this and try to propagate some additional wild plums from it, but it's not going to make it. They skinned it up. This actually is a sister plum tree, so it's not the best to keep either. It's got a larger stump that we cut away because it had died and had a bunch of nasty growth on it. This actually has a decent amount of blooms on it. In fact, it's very, very much covered in blooms. So I may get in here, because the pigs again like to root around this area. This is where the stream is. Again, the stream is hopefully going to be relocated here in a second. What is this, a pig meeting? Hopefully be able to save this. It may even come in and put some fence around it, even some electric fence, to because my fence is actually the charger, or a hot wire is actually just right behind the camera there, so I could run something over either from the top or bury it, but protect this tree. But with this plum, I don't have any other wild plums on the property. Maybe be able to propagate some, get some starts off the limbs there and be able to generate more plum trees. So this one looks really good as far as the blooms go. It held off blooming with all these late frosts. So the real takeaway from this discussion is, if you're going to have your pigs on pasture, and that pasture incorporates any type of structure, any type of outbuilding or supply of building materials, or basically anything you want stacked up, go ahead and kiss that goodbye, because they are going to just wreak havoc on that. I think pigs are like cats. If they see something stacked up, they're going to knock it off. I'm right here on the point. The barn and the workshop are there. The house is over on this other ridge. So I'm on the, what I consider the beginning of the south ridge. And I have the shed behind me. I'll just turn the camera here. So I have the shed behind me, and this used to be my tractor shed, but this is where I have a shelter for the pigs that I don't want in the barn. They can hang out here. And I just have this these three walls there to keep them, keep the elements off of them, but still open air. But it works well most of the time, unless we have really, really cold weather. But I used to have, like over here, I used to have a nice stack of cinder blocks that to save for later use. Those are all over the hill. Right here I have various pieces of corrugated roofing tin that were all stacked up nicely. Those are over the hill. Even my Brower feeder that I have for the piglets used to be under the shelter, and now it's over the hill, almost. And of course the pig hut, which was pretty much a failure. There hasn't been a lot of use out of that pig hut. Now I will use it during weaning time when I take the piglets and put them in a small weaning pasture, get them trained on electric fence and still give them shelter, so I'll use it then. That thing basically gets just knocked around everywhere. Even when I stake it to the ground, the sows just pick it up and throw it over the hill. It's like a commentary on how, this accommodation sucks, so we're going to throw it over the hill. So that's basically the situation we have with pigs. Now, if you don't have hills for them to throw things over, then maybe it's not that big of a deal. But if anything's stacked up or you want to keep anything nice and tidy, it ain't going to happen if pigs have access to it. Well, one thing I want to point out, if you haven't already, consider signing up for our e-newsletter. You can go to our website, redtoolhouse.com. There's a button down at the bottom that says subscribe. And we're not going to blow you up. I maybe send 3 or 4 emails a month. We're not going to blow you up on that. But we're just going to start including additional information about what's going on here, some additional tips. Quite a few have asked specifically about raising pigs and asking advice on how we do certain things. So we're going to start including those homestead tips in our e-newsletter. That way it's more than just blog content and other things. There's actually some additional useful information in there. So be sure to check that out, again, at redtoolhouse.com. If you like this video, give it a thumbs up. If you haven't subscribed, be sure to do so below. That way you get notified of when we have new videos. But speaking of which, we have new videos every Monday, Wednesday, and Friday at 4:30 p.m. Eastern Time. Take care, everybody. Somebody is about 2 weeks out from farrowing. I believe she has a pretty good litter in there.